Welcome to the Hacking Your Health podcast with Ben Canning and Dave Kennedy. Two guys heading out to hack body, mind, business, and beyond. We are here to provide a single source, bullshit-free guide to understanding your body and how you can live better for longer.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. I'm Ben Canning.
I'm Dave Kennedy.
And this is Hacking Your Health podcast. So what's up, man? How are you?
Good, man. It's been a solid week. Things have been going good. I when you talk about training and, me not ever missing a day, I had to go to a meeting in Akron, which is like 30 minutes away from here, but it was at 8 o'clock. And I normally go to Orange Theory between 8:15 and 9:15 is my time. So, I usually wake up at like 7, grab a shower, everything's good. And so I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna miss Orange Theory. Well, maybe I could do it in the afternoon. But that would mean that I'd have to like lift right afterwards, and I wouldn't have a 6-hour period window, to kind of recover from that. And, I wouldn't get a good lift in. So I'm trying to figure this out. I'm like, well, maybe I can go on Thursday and look at my schedule on Thursday. It's like all jacked up. And I'm like, all right, that's it. I'm just going to wake up at 4:30 in the morning and go to the 5:30 class so I can go to 6:30. So, what's interesting is about that is I am not a morning person at all. I hate the mornings, right?
You're not at all.
I'm not at all. But I will tell you, I knew that I needed to get my sleep. So I went to bed at 9 o'clock, and then I woke up at 4:30 and I felt great. I was tired, it was 4:30 in the morning, but I didn't feel like, I'm like dragging my ass out of bed after drinking too many beers the morning before. I actually felt really good, had a really great workout session, did my whole day and then got my lift in the afternoon, just like normal. So it worked out really well. So, it's just managing time the best you possibly can to fit in the training that you need, and just, spending some time again on yourself. This week was a good testament of that, to be able to accomplish that. But how have you been, man? First of all, how are you doing? You good? And how's the move? And you got some new lighting back there and everything, looking great with the pink.
I do have a lot of new. I actually have. I'll not put them on now because they're very bright. No, I'm doing good. Everything's good. I have been a lot. I've had to wear a lot of different hats the past couple of weeks. I've moved a lot. I actually wanted to mention this to you. It's taken me about 2 weeks to move total. And I've lost in that time 5 kilos. So what's that? Like,
oh my gosh.
11 pounds?
Yeah,
so I've lost 11 pounds in the past 2 weeks. And I feel... Stop changing your... literally changing your life.
What are you talking about?
So I've literally lost 5 kilos in total. So I was 105 kilos before I started to move, and I was 100 kilos yesterday morning. And I'm like, holy shit. And I think that the reason I wanted to bring it up was because I know that there's a lot of people that can relate to me being skinny and find it difficult to put on weight. And this sort of shows that how difficult it actually is for me to sort of maintain that. So my schedule was all messed up in terms of my food, so I wasn't eating regularly. So you can see how quickly that just sort of falls off. It literally falls off. So now I've got 4 weeks to try and get as heavy as possible before we're pound for pound lifting beside each other. But no,
your perspective is like completely different than mine. So like if I just didn't like work out or lift and didn't do I'm not saying you didn't do shit. Moving's a big deal, but like I would gain 11 pounds.
Yeah,
it's very different. It's interesting.
Yeah, and I think that's obviously, everybody's individual struggles, but I stood in the scale and I could obviously feel it different. I was like, I didn't think it would be as much as it was. So I have, 4 weeks to put it back on. But other than that, everything's good. I've just had a busy couple of weeks, but everything has been good. And I think just what you're saying about yesterday, whenever you replied to my message, I was like, he's still up. Like, why is he still up at this time? It's got to be like 4 o'clock in the morning over there. But obviously you had just gotten up, and I think that's a testament to prioritizing the shit that you need to get done no matter what else you've got going on.
And it's that whole mindset thing, right? It's like, listen, 4:30 the alarm hits, I'm tired, I don't want to wake up, but I have to do it, right? Just like brushing my teeth, just like taking a shower, just like putting my underwear on, if you wear underwear, those are the things that you do on a daily basis, and working out is the exact same thing. So I didn't look at it any different than I had to get it done in the morning versus a little bit earlier versus a little bit later than I typically do. So I think that's a big obviously big change. Another big change too. Well, two things. I went to my primary care physician, my PCP, and got some blood work done, and did my physical and everything. And he came back to me and said, "Dude," he's like, "based on your blood work, where you're at, everything else, he's like, you're a 23-year-old in your prime. He's like, you look amazing. Your everything is perfect. I mean, he's like, he started asking me questions. He's like, and what's interesting about this, and it's something that I didn't even think of, is that, the doctor said, when we go to medical school, especially, becoming a general doctor, not specialized in a certain area, we have like 1 day on nutrition. We have nothing on body optimization. We're basically taught how to diagnose issues and to get them to specialists in order to go and do it. So when it comes to like what you should be doing for your body, a lot of the new science that's coming out, a lot of the new stuff on testosterone, the new stuff on body optimization, longevity, most PCPs and doctors aren't up to speed on in any regard. So, it's one of those things where when you're looking at what do you do for yourself, you should definitely rely on your PCP to monitor your health, monitor how you're doing, making sure your blood works great, that you're doing the right things, and obviously, consult with them in every way, shape, or form. But they may not know the best route for you and what to do. And he actually started, it was supposed to be like an hour long, physical, and it turned into like an hour and a half because he was asking me what he should do, and got into TRT and got into all this other stuff, and like got into like all the science behind it, and he's like, all right, he's like, can I get your cell phone so I can text you with some questions I have? I'm like, dude, you're my doctor, man. So I was like, man, I'm thinking about going back for my doctorate, and no, I'm just kidding. But
I don't know. You must. There's maybe a problem with my emails. You must not have referred him to me to coach him. Like I didn't. Get the email
I did.
from.
I'm like, hey, I was like, hey, I got this awesome trainer, and he's like, all right. So, but no, it's just kind of interesting to know, like when it comes to you and your body, doing your own research. And that's the thing, like, when I talked to him about my diet and what I was eating, he's like, that's like the polar opposite of what I hear from most people. He's like, oh, you got to do keto, you got to do this, you got to do that. He's like, but from a body perspective, it makes perfect sense because you want high energy, you want to build muscle, and that's your objectives and goals, and you're right in line. I'm like, and I asked him because, I'm at 230 now because I keep growing in muscle mass, which is great. Only getting bigger. But I was like, is there any concerns with me, going up to like 230, 240, 250, 500, in muscle mass, and he's like, based on how lean that you're staying and the muscle mass you're putting on, he's like, you're literally in perfect condition, perfect shape. He's like, I would not change a thing. Keep doing what you're doing. And so that was really cool to see.
You heard it here first. I literally have made you 16 years younger.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
So all in all, good.
Then I get hit by a car and die.
That's
all
really
that work.
though. Please.
Yeah, no.
And then obviously you got some feedback yesterday when you were at the meeting.
Yeah, that's a funny story. So, on the business side of the house, I'm part of this group where it's a bunch of CEOs that get together that have similar sized businesses, but in different industry verticals like manufacturing, marketing, technology, everything you could possibly imagine. And it's just a group of like 15 of us that get together once a month, and we all get together and just chat about, hey, what are our struggles in business? What are we looking at doing? Is this a good idea? Is this a bad idea? Just a group amongst the peers that are non-judgmental, that have your best interest at heart, that try to, help you formulate your business decisions in the best way, shape, or form. And I found that really valuable for me because, running, two extremely large growing companies, this is uncharted territory for me. I've never, ran a company that's like this before, right? And so, it's like, hey, what am I doing here? And so, you got to ask.
Somebody please tell me everything's going to be okay.
Yeah, there's no book on this. There's plenty of business books, but like, I'm like, hey, I haven't been through this before. So, being able to share your experiences with like-minded folks is always great. And we had this guest speaker come in, and he's a comedian, and he's a actor and a bunch of other stuff, and he coaches actors, but he also coaches executives and business folks about how to communicate with authenticity, very similar to like what actors would do, in a movie and things of that effect, right? And And so it was an interesting spin on it. And it was really cool to apply that to business concepts, because they actually applied a lot of the same similar concepts of social engineering around body behavior, around your emotions, and being able to turn on emotions when you need to. And just kind of going through dialogue, went through some exercises, which was really cool. So like one of the exercises they did is, you had to sit there, you got up into partners and you talk to somebody, and they would tell you who they are and what they're good at. And then, we didn't know that. So we had to listen, and then, and then I would go, other person would go, and then we would have to then play that person of them telling us the story. So we'd have to, add their mannerisms, add their, like dialogue, one of the guys, was like, oh shit, this is hard, and so the one guy's like, oh shit, this is hard, so you had to like emulate all the body reactions and emotions of those types of things of somebody else. And, and he would kind of critique and kind of go through those. Anyways, one of the things that he said, which, he walks in and, he's going around the room and he's like looking around and he looks at me, he's like, oh shit. He's like, hey, there's Thor over there with his Thor arms. You can tell that, this guy works out his muscles because he's wearing, 2 sizes too small of a t-shirt, and everybody starts laughing and everything. But then he started like picking on me and my muscles the entire time. He's like, look at that powerhouse over there, and his, I'm like, he's like, and he started talking about like eating. He's like, well, that guy really doesn't have an ounce of body fat on, like he just kept going on and on and on. It was funny, but at the same time, I was like, hey, that's kind of cool. I like that, like he noticed.
I've never been this guy before.
Yeah. I'm like, hey, this is why we train, so other guys can compliment us and how awesome our muscles look, right? That's what you said to me.
That's exactly it. We do it for other guys' appreciation for the hard work.
That's right. Yeah, it was cool, and just to get that kind of recognition is awesome. And just last night I was going to drop my kids off for basketball, and one of Gavin's basketball trainers got hit with COVID really hard. Like he thought he was going to die, long COVID, just like really bad in the hospital. And I haven't seen him in months. And I saw him for the first time yesterday. He's doing really good, fully recovered, thank God. And he comes to me, he's like, dude, you've like doubled in size since I've last saw you. That's ridiculous. That's awesome. I'm like, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I like that. So that's why we do things.
That is exactly it. That is why we do it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what we're talking about, well, a couple of things today to bring up is I wanted to hit, very briefly on a new study that was recently released on steps. Okay. And I like this one because what's the first thing that you said to me when I first joined aboard about my program?
What was the first thing that I said?
Yeah. Well, like as far as like what's my program look like? Yeah, I mean. But I mean, like when you actually programmed my program for a week of what I had to do. So obviously there was weight training, there was some
cardio and steps.
So cardio and steps, right? And so why do you before we go into the study, why do you do steps?
I do it because it is a low impact form of burning energy.
Yep. So interesting enough, everybody hears you have to do steps, and the magic number is 10,000. Okay. So what's interesting is the number 10,000 is not actually a magic number. It was actually pulled out of someone's ass a number of years ago. No science behind that whatsoever. 10,000 versus 12,000 versus whatever. Someone completely made up 10,000 steps. But what they did recently identify, and this was a multi-year study, and we'll send the show notes for all of this. But basically, they analyzed, hey, was 10,000 steps a day good for you, and is 10,000 the magic number, or why 10,000 versus 3,000 versus 2,000 versus 50,000, etc.
I've done 50,000 steps in one day before. It was a lot. 52,000 was the record. It's a lot of fucking steps. Wouldn't recommend doing that every day.
So we're at 52,002 one day.
How fast did you drink the protein shake, though?
I can do my protein shake pretty quick. But this study came out September 4th of 2021, and it was out of UPI, and they basically looked at what's the magic number for steps, and what are the benefits of steps. Okay, so they looked at all those different areas because they wanted to see, hey, is steps something conducive to your health? And what they found was, and there actually is a magic number, by the way, and it's not 10,000. It's actually 7,000. 7,000 is the magic step number a day that you want to get. And what happened with people that did 7,000 steps or more is that they had a 50 to 70% reduction in lower risk of dying. And this is an 11-year study.
Nice.
So 50 to 70% reduction in risk of dying just by doing 7,000 steps a day.
So you're telling me if I do 7,000 steps a day, I'm up to 70% less likely to die?
Correct.
Sign me up.
Right? That's incredible, right?
Yeah.
And and they also looked at slower steps versus quicker steps versus intensity. None of those seem to have an impact on that. So the step intensity did not have an impact on the reduction of death. It was literally just getting the steps in, which is the most important thing. So step counting is very beneficial for you. Has monumental impact on your ability and longevity of life. And at the end of the day, it's also a low impact way of burning calories, right? So, you can burn, you probably know the math better than I do. So how many calories is 10,000
So
steps?
the reason that I think that 10,000 is the number and the sort of the math behind it, I guess, is we will equate, and this is totally generic, totally an approximate and not for everybody, but generically, 2,000 steps equates to around 100 calories. So 10,000 a day is 500 calories a day. 500 calories a day, 7 days a week is 3,500 calories, which technically should be the equivalent to burning a pound of body fat. It should take burning 3,500 calories to get rid of a pound of body fat. So that's where I have seen the 10,000 number come from.
Yeah, and the math equation for calories and burning, 100% agree with, right? And I think it's not just the reduction of risk and death; it's the cardiovascular improvements, the reduction of cholesterol, hypoglycemia, in diabetes, rate reduction from a calorie perspective, and obviously the more that you walk, the more calories you burn. Thus, if you're tracking your calories and you're in a caloric restriction, your caloric deficit. You have the ability to lose more weight just through simply walking, right? And that's why, when Ben will start with a lot of people, oftentimes it will be, hey, if you can't commit to any cardio at all, that's fine. Get your steps in per day. Let's get you at a calorie base where you're in a deficit. Make sure you're counting calories appropriately, and then from there you'll start to just lose weight simply based off of that. And by the way, you simply could lose weight on a caloric restriction, without even doing steps, without even doing weight training or resistance training. But at the end of the day, the cardiovascular benefits, the reduction of death, all of those, the components that come along with having a healthy lifestyle are part of those pieces that are all part of that puzzle, right?
Yeah, and I generally find that, number one, whenever I explain the numbers behind the steps, as I just did, when people understand that, they're more committed to actually doing their steps. Instead of me just going, yeah, do 10,000 steps because 10,000 whatever, because that's when your Fitbit will do the fireworks or whatever happens. Whenever I actually explain the numbers behind it, people are more likely to do it. But then, there's always that sort of friction at the start because there's a lot of change going on and people maybe can't commit the time doing 10,000 steps or whatever. But when they start consistently hitting it, it's like it's the missing piece of the puzzle to their fat loss or whatever it is that they're trying to achieve. When they start consistently hitting their 10,000 steps. And I generally find that the people who hit it every single day and have the commitment to do it will have better success with it than the people who obviously it's the same across the week. And if you get 70,000 across the week, that's fine. But the people who hit it consistently day by day, I find that they have more of a linear fat loss.
Yep, completely agree. And so, incorporating all of this into your daily routines is something that, obviously we preach quite a bit on this podcast, but get out there, get your steps in. It's difficult to do in wintertime, at least here in Ohio. But, having, the ability to have some sort of, walking treadmill on your desk, which I have, or other things, can definitely help out with those different pieces of getting your steps in. Just walking around your house, walking around your office, getting a 20-minute walk in. Those types of things make a huge impact and difference to getting the goals that you wanted to accomplish there. So I thought it was just an interesting study.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, although it's great doing it in the gym and doing it in the treadmill and whatever, the benefits of actually just getting outside. So take away the benefits of the calories, burning calories or fat loss or low impact or whatever. The benefits of actually just being outside and being in fresh air and, like obviously we spoke about Andrew Huberman. I think this is the first time I've actually brought him up. And he talks about the benefits of, being outside in the morning and the daylight and, sort of activating your, like the motion, the rapid eye motion. So the benefits of actually being outside far beyond just what we're trying to do from a fat loss perspective. And I know, obviously, now that I work fully online, I'm in this fucking office all day long. So sometimes I go outside and I'm like, holy shit, like it's been snowing or something. Something's happened, like stuff that you just don't realize. So, beyond what we're just trying to do from a calorie burning perspective or whatever, just the benefits of actually being outside, breathing fresh air, being in the daylight, whether it's actually bright, sunny or not, like just being in the daylight, they go far beyond just what you can do from a fat loss perspective.
Yeah, and obviously we had Lisa on last week, and her outdoorsy walking.
I still can't believe that not one person has messaged me or commented on the fact that you burn 35,000 calories in the day that you summit Everest. I'm like, that is a fucking crazy fact, and not one person has mentioned it to me. I'm like, what the fuck?
That's crazy. I can't believe the amount of how good of shape you have to be in to be doing something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just crazy.
Can't believe that you're actually going to go ice climbing.
Well, I wanted to go to Europe with my family for the longest time, especially get them to like Italy, Rome, those types of areas to kind of show them through. I mean, I think it'd be a great experience, and they're at the age now where I think they can handle a good flight like there. So, if I have to like spend like a half a day maybe on a baby hill, I say baby hill, I'd be up for that as long as it's not too cold. But we'll figure that out as it comes along. But I'm down for it. I mean, I don't have any issues with heights. I don't have any issues with anything like that.
You just don't like the cold?
I just don't like the cold. Like I hate the cold. Like I'm a baby when it comes to cold. Like to get to my gym, I don't talk a lot about where my gym's at, but it's like in a different part of the house. Like so you have to go outside to the garage, like not attached garage, and it's below there. So I actually have to go outside to get to my gym, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to go outside. It's so cold out there, and it's only like 5 seconds I'm outside, like if that, but it's like, oh, it's so cold out there. So like just to go 5 seconds from one part, of my garage to get to the other part of the garage, I literally put on like everything. I have a coat on, I have like over my hood, and I'm going out there and I'm like, this sucks. This sucks.
Build a tunnel.
Yeah, that's what I said. I want to get a tunnel there. I'm like we should have an underground bunker that goes directly to there. And Aaron's like, yeah, you're an idiot, so it's not gonna happen. But no, I to bring up Lisa though, from last week, that's kind of her thing, the outdoorsy, being able to be one with nature, and she put it great. There's no politics or craziness or anything that's going on in the world when you're up there with your nature. It's a way for you to go back to yourself of what your roots are. And to experience life as it should be without technology and things of that effect. And, for me, I find myself at peace when I'm out there in the woods walking. There's a place by my house that I always go to, and it's a 3-mile walk around this lake. And, I tell you, I feel so good when I walk it. I don't have a care in the world. I might throw on a podcast or something like that just to kind of tune me out, or I just will listen to nature without anything on at all, not even having to pay attention to anything. And I zone out, and I love it. And I come back refreshed. I feel great. And those are the types of things I think that can really be beneficial for you to incorporate into your routines.
Yeah, I think even just, like you said, detaching from technology, like when do we ever do that? And Daniel he was on the call last night that, they were in a pretty remote place over the weekend and there was no cell reception. And I was like, geez. Like part of me is like, oh no, fuck that. But part of me is like, that would be great just to do that for, a couple of days, just to get away from, as I said last week, like I haven't been in a while to sea swimming, but whenever I'm in the sea, like obviously there's no fun, there's no connection to anything. And it's just that like, I'm in the freezing cold sea, just trying to survive. But, there is that detachment from technology, which we don't do because I mean, even right now, the amount of things that are plugged in around me, like it's insane. I don't do the same.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So on to our next topic. So that was a good study on walking. So again, incorporate walking, 7,000 steps bare minimum to have a reduction of 50 to 70% of death longevity wise. Obviously, the more steps you get, better you're going to have from a calorie burn perspective, which if you're in a caloric deficit, the more you'll lose weight. Okay, so easy math there from a calorie perspective, calories in versus calories out. If you don't know what we're talking about around calorie deficit, calorie surplus, total daily energy expenditures, check out our podcast around nutrition and the podcast that we did on on counting calories and those types of things. It's really, really important to understand those fundamentals, because at the end of the day, and the way that the science of our bodies work from a thermogenics perspective, calories in versus calories out. Now, there are nuances to all of them. There's some complexities there, but at the end of the day, if you eat less calories than you're bringing in, you will lose weight. If you eat more calories, you will gain weight. It's just simple math. And so the more that you burn, either through cardio or through walking or doing something that creates a rise in temperature in your body from a thermodynamics perspective, the more calories you burn. But if you eat more calories because you're more hungry because you worked out, that doesn't do you any good. So you have to count your calories, understand what you're putting into your body, reduce those if you want to lose weight. The more you reduce, the more you lose weight. But I want to bring up one thing really quick before we get into a topic of rep ranges, because I had somebody message me on Facebook, and they said, Dave, dude, your journey looks incredible. Very similar boat. I'm, whatever. I'm 300 some pounds, and I used to be in good shape, and I can't figure things out. And and he's like, so, I'm on this diet now where I'm drinking 3 shakes a day and vegetables, and it's 800 calories a day. And I said, oh my effing God, like, what are you doing? Please don't do this. Please don't do this.
Please stop right now.
Please stop right now. I'm like, you cannot live off of this. Like, you're going to hate life. Your body's going to go into starvation mode. You're going to have no energy to do anything. You're going to feel like crap, and you're going to fail at this. I'm like, please, please, please. What's your weight? What's your height? Let me figure some things out for you. Here's what you should be eating on a regular basis. And again, I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not claiming to be a nutritionist. You should definitely see a nutritionist. But at the end of the day, like calories in versus calories out, this is something that you need to work on that's sustainable for the rest of your life. This diet, this 800 calorie shake crap is bullshit. Do not do that. He's like, well, I want to lose weight faster. I'm like, that's fine, but do it in a methodical way that you can adjust. Like, what happens if you do this for 3 months and you're miserable for 3 months? You're like no energy, feel horrible. You're angry. You're agitated because you're not getting any food in. Your body's in starvation mode. Everybody around you hates you. You get to 3 months, in, you're like, I did it. And you're like, cool, I lost, 30 pounds in 3 months. Okay, back to normal eating again. I'm good. Right? And what's going to happen? You're going to shoot right back up in weight again because you have no system to control any of that. So, when you're doing this, don't do these stupid fad diets. Put yourself into a system that can work long term, that will allow you to be flexible in it. Hey, if I'm not getting the desired results, cool, shave 100 calories off. Still not getting the desired results, cool, shave another 100 calories off. Rinse and repeat. It's literally as easy as it gets. You have a framework to be able to handle this long term, right?
Yeah, I think even that relates back to what you said that your doctor was saying. Like, you're literally telling him the opposite of what everybody else is telling him. And obviously, I mean, the visuals of you versus everybody else, I'm sure there's a distinct difference. So, obviously all these things and all these fads and whatever else people are doing, they can get you from one place to another. But then after that, it's a total shit show. And I often say this on our initial coaching calls, like, my job as a coach is to educate the client to the point that they don't need me, which is a ridiculously terrible business model, but it's what you need is the education. It's not just all right, I'm going to stick to this diet because I'm going to lose this amount of weight and this person told me that it would work. It's like, right, okay, well, and I brought it up in the call last night, understanding what you need to do to manage social events, what you need to do to manage weekends away, like how you can actually create this as a way of life, how you can actually manage everything that goes on in life and still make progress no matter what your goal is. And I think that the education behind that and me giving out the tools, or a coach giving out the tools, is exactly what needs to happen. And while there's infinite amounts of information on the internet, which is the best and the worst thing about it, it doesn't give you the actual why or the education. It's, people will go, I'm doing keto because, my sister's partner's husband's cat recommended it, so I thought I would give it a go because I want to lose 30 pounds because I'm going to a wedding in 3 weeks. And you're like, no, listen, grow up, just fucking manage your calories properly.
Yep. And that's the thing I never understood with keto too is like, I'm like, I was on keto for I think 6 months, and I never understood.
Still can't get over the fact you were a vegetarian. Like, I'm still not over that.
7 years, man, vegetarian for 7 years, right? But the thing was, with the keto thing is like, I never understood why it was working, that, hey, if you're going no carb, heavy fat, heavy protein, you're going to fill up faster, thus probably having less calories that you're eating per the day, but it gets nothing into calorie restrictions on anything. So it's like, I still wasn't having the desired results. I had some weight loss successes, but at the end of the day, I wasn't counting calories, and thus I started actually gaining weight on keto. So it's like, it's.
And I would say it'd be quite easy to eat a lot of calories on keto. You can eat a lots of.
Well, you look at the concentration per gram of fat equating to calories. You can easily jack in a ton of calories by having heavy fat content, right? With small amounts of food.
A burger and cheese for your breakfast.
Yeah. I mean, you're probably looking at 600 calories right there, right? And then you have something else throughout the day. You keep going. It's just it's cyclical on that side. So again, not having an understanding of that, I think, is the biggest issue, right? And that's obviously what we're preaching here, is that understand why your body does what it does, what thermogenics are, understand what your total daily energy expenditure is from a calorie perspective. Put yourself in a calorie deficit, and then from there start to lose the weight, or obviously surplus if you want to gain weight. So
and understand it for yourself, The greatest gift that I can give anybody is the understanding for them. And I've said this, I don't know how many times over the past week on onboarding new clients and talking to new people. You need to work it out for you. I know it for me. I now know it for you. And I now know it for the rest of the guys and girls in the client group. But working it out for yourself is the best thing that you can do for yourself, because it's not the same for you. It's not the same for me. I know exactly what I need to do for the next 4 weeks to make sure I'm in the best position to be stronger than you whenever we're lifting together. But it's only because, I've had 7 or 8 years of experience of experimenting with what works well and what doesn't work well for my body. And, again, going back to the stuff that you can read online, something you may read online might be absolutely bang on for you, but it might not be bang on for me. So it's about understanding what works best for you, experiment with different things, tracking the data as well, so that you understand, well, I did this and this happened, so that's good, or I did this and this happened and that's bad, and do more of the stuff that's good and less of the stuff that's bad, and then really refine what you need to do for yourself. Yeah,
those are all the important things to do.
Don't have shakes for your food throughout the day. Please eat real food.
I saw that. I'm like, oh, that sounds so miserable. I started getting angry and agitated and upset and went into starvation mode just by looking at that Facebook message. I'm like, don't do this, please don't do this, please don't do this. No, listen. At the end of the day, again, we a lot of good information in these previous podcasts. If you're just tuning into us, check out the nutrition one. Things to that effect. Those are all going to be important ones for you to take a look at. But so moving on to the main topic, which is rep ranges. And the reason why I wanted to bring this one up today was that I started watching this TV show, Reacher, which is based off of the Jack Reacher books. I think Tom Cruise played Jack Reacher as well. And
can we just point out that Tom Cruise and the guy that you sent me are not similar in any way?
They are not similar at all. At all. They have very different perspectives on fitness, right? And so the guy that plays Reacher, his name is Allard Richardson. Got it. Anyways, he's a badass. At least in the TV show, he's a badass. And what I liked about Alan, and this is something that when you start getting into, what are your goals? Comparing yourself to somebody else is never a good thing, right? But having goals for yourself and what you think you can obtain is always something that is good for yourself, because you're continuously progressing yourself forward. And so, I looked at Alan's body type, and Alan happens to be 6'2", I'm 6'4", and he's got a very similar frame to me, and I like his body type a lot, which is he's jacked as hell. He's got huge freaking arms. He's got a six-pack. His chest looks well-defined. And so, I was actually curious on what Alan's workout routine was. Obviously, probably steroids are in the mix there. But, Alan's workout routine, I was curious on to see, what he looked like, what his routine was. And I was actually really surprised by his workout routine. And, to me, I figured, well, I'm sure he's lifting heavy, several days a week. I'm sure he's doing this. I'm sure he's probably not doing a whole lot of cardio. So what does his workout routine actually look like? And I was blown away by it, because he doesn't actually focus at all on heavy lifting at all. His whole concept is volume, everything volume, high sets, high reps, lower weights. And he tracks all the volume day in and day out, which is exactly what I do, by the way, thank God. I'm always trying to get higher volume. Path. I think we're doing things right here, right?
I'm just looking at pictures of him with his top off, so you can carry on.
This is why we do things, right? So other guys look at us and check us out. But
yeah.
But his workout routines are high reps, high sets, supersets that focus on muscle exhaustion and muscle hypertrophy. And it makes sense. You look at a lot of the data behind power lifters versus bodybuilders versus power builders, power building. What was it? So you got power lifters,
was the Jeff,
power building.
Yeah.
Power building. So it's kind of like half between strength and bodybuilding. So, there's a lot of different variations of creating muscle and how you look, and strength versus, muscle size. And so there's a lot of good data behind this, but typically the lower rep ranges, anywhere between, 3 reps to 8 reps is typically what people would consider the strength side of the house. So, if you're doing really big compound movements, like a deadlift, squats, bench press, big compound movements that are going to hit big muscle groups. If you want to go up in strength, you typically go very heavy and you stay within that rep range of 3 to 8. Now, if you're going above that, let's just say you're going to 9 or 10 or 11 or 12, then it's time to increase the weight so that you go down to that 3 to 8 rep range. But then there's the muscle hypertrophy aspect of things, which is physically exhausting the muscle with too much volume. And that's really the sweet spot, in many cases. And that's why when you look at power building, it's kind of an interesting concept. This is where I fit mostly into, which is I still do very heavy compound movements, in the 3 to 8 rep ranges, but then I follow the rest of my exercises in the higher rep ranges in order for muscle exhaustion and muscle fatigue. And so, for me, it's really getting into, hey, can I increase my strength? I want to be strong, but I also want to have really big muscles as well. And you can do both by far. So what Alan's concept is he's focusing on, longevity and health, and he actually does a lot of cardio. And the reason why he says he does a lot of cardio is because he eats like total crap. So he's like, I just like sushi too much, so I do cardio all the time.
I can relate to that.
Right?
Yeah. I just so I did go down a bit of a rabbit hole Googling him there. So you said he's 6'2", and when he's filming Reacher, he was 235 pounds. So at least I know what I need to do to get there. 'Cause I'm 6'2".
That's awesome.
You'll be happy to know. So I know how much weight I need.
I'm glad you're not small, Ben.
Yeah, thanks. A cardboard bin. But yeah, I think obviously whenever you sent me that, and obviously you weren't the first person to actually send me him or mention him to me. But an incredible physique, and definitely a better representation of Reacher than Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is not the same guy.
No.
I think I maybe actually will need to worth watching the series. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it was actually a really great episode, or a really great series. I really enjoyed it. And he played the big, strong, muscular military type, that walked in and beat everybody's asses all the time. And, that's just obviously cool in itself, but the storyline was great. The character building was great. All that good stuff. So
cool. So the goal is Alan Ritchson. Can we get him on the podcast?
We could try. That'd be awesome. It's interesting. So I was reading a little thing from Men's Health on him. They did a blurb on Men's Health, and I just want to read this out really quick because it's, to me, it's very similar to the rep ranges that I focus on and that I started incorporating more into my training programs. Just this week, I started incorporating 20 to 30 rep range ones, and I actually just finished one today. So today's my upper day, and my normal upper day, is chat. So I try to get a full body kind of upper body workout. So I do push, pull, legs. So push is going to be, chest and triceps and shoulders. My pull is going to be, biceps and back and typically traps. And then Wednesday is legs, typically, squats and deadlifts and things to that effect. And then Thursday is my upper, and I work pretty much everything. So I do shoulders, biceps, triceps, back, and chest. And today I incorporated essentially a burnout phase, which was 4 sets of 20 to 30 rep range bicep curls and skull crushers. And, so these are much lower weight. So I think, my normal skull crushers, I'm in the, 120, to 130 range, for skull crushers. I was down to, I think, 80 pounds, and then I went down to 60 pounds. And that got me into the 20 to 30, rep range. Same thing for bicep curls. When I'm using the tonal, I'm usually around the 35 pound per arm mark. And I was down to, I think, 10 pounds per arm to get to the 20 to 30 rep range. And I'll tell you, my muscles were exhausted. Like, I mean, they hurt. They were fatigued. Like, I remember I'm going up. I'm like, and I probably get up there. I'm like, oh, okay. Dripping in sweat. Everything was great. So it was actually a really challenging workout to get to that muscle fatigue piece of it. With those, because normally I'm doing, I'll do 3. I'll still do 4 sets of like AMRAP and things like that. But this was really, really different type of experience.
Yeah, and I know obviously you touched on that in your check-in video, and I know that you haven't got through your feedback yet, but one thing I did sort of say on that is, number one, I think we should go back and look through your plan and change a couple of the rep ranges based on that, but instead of just going for like 3 or 4 sets of like 25 or 20 to 30 reps, the way that I sort of programmed it would be, or the way that I said that we should program it would be, look at the sort of regular rep ranges that you're doing now and then incorporate like a drop set. So you would go, your normal, say 10 to 15 or 8 to 12 or whatever it is, and then drop the weight by like 30% and then go to absolute failure, and then drop the weight by 30% again and go to absolute failure, or just do one where you go drop the weight by 50% and go to failure on that. So you're still getting that sort of being able to push it that little bit further in terms of like the amount of reps. It's a lower weight. But my main concern that I brought up in your check-in feedback was your joints. And obviously we spoke before about blood flow restriction and how that would allow you to do lower weight, which is less pressure through your joints. So while I understand it and I get it, and the higher rep ranges I'm all about, we just need to sort of manage it as best we can from a recovery perspective, that we're not going to fuck other things up along the way. Yeah, that's a good idea. Good idea. Well, I'm going to read this article really quick from Men's Health, because it kind of gives a perspective of Alan's workout, which is rich and packed on muscle for the role, eventually gaining about 30 pounds. While he described that bulking experience as a full-time job, he now tends to be more balanced in his approach to fitness. He said, I learned a lot in the process about longevity and working out in a way that prevents injury but achieves goals. I think for most of us, muscle growth has been my goal. My goal is actually volume. It's not about punishing ourselves in the gym or taking ourselves to the point of literally destroying our bodies. It's about consistent, vigorous activities for short, healthy amounts of time. To grow those jacked reacher arms, Richardson used high-volume supersets to light up his biceps and triceps, starting with cable tricep press downs, supersetted with overhead extensions for 15 to 25 reps, still using the rope, but from the bottom this time. Richardson then performed a hammer curl for 4 sets of 25, or as close to 25 as he can get till failure. He follows up with dumbbell hammer presses, skull crushers, 15 to 25 range, and then picked up the easy curl to do 21 curls. This is where you perform 7 reps at the bottom end of the curl in the middle, and the 7 in the upper end of the movement, and then 7 in the full range of motion. With the supersets on cable, dumbbells, and barbells, we're confusing the muscles as much as possible. So again, kind of an interesting piece there, where when he's focusing on his different areas, it's again, higher rep ranges, trying to pump those up and everything. So yeah, and I think that, that's a good way to look at it from, like, we're talking about longevity, that, if we're just looking at adding volume and not looking at, totally annihilating the muscle, and you can still increase volume with higher reps. Yes, it's a lower weight and the volume will be different, but it's not like, whenever we were doing, sets of 3 where you're really putting your body under a massive strain from like pulling a big weight or pushing a big weight or whatever it is, like you can still do that addition of volume through higher reps and lower weight. One thing I want to mention about just what because he's talking about biceps and triceps, and this is something that whenever Helmy and I were filming the Helmy's a big boy, yeah, I know.
Helmy's a big boy.
Whenever we were filming the exercise execution library, one thing that that kept coming across is having an understanding of the natural path of motion of the muscle. And I touched on this last night in a bit about the call. So for anybody who's not watching, I'm going to be moving my hands, so apologies on that, but I'll try and describe it as best possible. So let's talk about bicep curls. So if you imagine you're standing, arms down by your side, to try and get what way you need to move in a bicep curl, you should just do a regular rep with no weight. So just bring your arms up and find what the natural path is. So you'll be able to see here, Dave, that mine are coming up at a slight angle. So that is how I should do a bicep curl, because that's how my biceps move. So I don't want to be going against it or any other way around it from a different angle, because it's not going to be true to me getting a proper contraction. Same with triceps, same with any other muscle. So if anybody struggles to grow a specific muscle or, add muscle in a specific area, make sure you're moving the muscle in the right way and you get a proper contraction with it, and actually spend time doing that movement. And actually doing Scott's feedback, he said that he spent a lot more time recently in his warm-up sets, and he's learnt a lot about how he needs to move and the things that he needs to do. And he mentioned last night about how he found if he slightly pointed out his toes that he got a lot more activation through his glutes and his deadlifts and his RDLs. And it's just through time and actually spend the time to do that. Like, an RDL in itself as a movement, it has the principles, but obviously everybody's going to move in it slightly differently because we're all built differently mechanically, and it just again comes down to actually working that out for yourself. But my point is, spend some time actually working out how your joints and how your body works to then get the proper contraction through the right muscles to then actually be able to progress and lift through that.
Yeah, one of the points that you hit on initially was the longevity aspects of things, right? And I think that's, again, what are your goals? Are your goals to be able to do well, absolutely. But are your goals to be able to be big as hell and be able to, deadlift 800 pounds? Or, is it longevity of your body? I think, for me, what I and I've said this before in previous podcasts, but I think for me, I always have this internal struggle of wanting to be super strong and also very big. And I also have to recognize that I'm 39 years old, and that, deadlifting 800 pounds probably isn't the best interest of my longevity of, being able to do, certain things, right? So, I think the approach that, Alan's done, as well as, what we've been going through on kind of, understanding total volume is extremely important, because that's longevity of your body, right? You're growing your muscles from a muscle hypertrophy perspective. You're balancing strength, so you're still continuously lifting in the 3 to 8 rep range, but you're not, going to 1 rep maxes and things of that effect, for the big compound movements, but the rest of it are supplemental to help build those muscles out. And I think it's a really good balance between the two, to allow yourself to grow, to still continue to be strong, and then to also, continuously progress forward with additional volume, additional strength, et cetera, et cetera. I noticed, just today as a good example, it's a slow progression, right? So I did bench press, and I got 1 more rep that I did last week. Great. Awesome. That's a fucking huge win. Like I'm stronger than I was last week. Great. So, you have to look at that progress and say, okay, now I'm at the 7 rep range. I'm getting close to that 8, 9, 10, rep range. Eventually I'll have to increase the weight again, and I continue to add more volume and do, so it's that continual progression, trying to move forward, but not destroy yourself. Hey, I'm not doing a 400 pound, barbell bench press for 1 rep max to see how far I can take it. I really want to keep pushing my body, but not in a way that hurts it in any way, shape, or form. I want to continuously adjust it based on the programs that I'm doing, continue to confuse the muscle, continue to burn out the muscle, continue to try different exercises and movements so you don't get used to one or the other, figure out other ways to hit the muscle. Those are all things that can continuously help you progress in these components, especially around resistance training.
Yeah, I think if we change our goal slightly, well, I guess the terminology, it should be to be as big as possible for as long as possible. Because yes, we could probably get big very quickly, but I don't know if we could maintain it for a lengthy period of time. But yeah, it's a funny, I guess your logbook and progression that way is a funny thing to be invested in, and it's part of the reason why I love training so much, because yeah, okay, you maybe are only getting 1 additional rep in a specific exercise per week, or you are only adding, a couple of pounds on the bar, whatever it is. But as I've sort of said before, I don't know I think it was on the call, maybe, at the start, you'll progress quite quickly. You'll add a lot of reps because your body will be able to adapt quite quickly to the program and whatever. But whenever you come into sort of the tail end of your program, you really grind for those extra reps. And to me, those ones are much more worthwhile. And, you're literally doing things that your body has never done before. So you literally have to grind out and get every single rep. You have to be prepared to fail, as we spoke about last week. It's part of the process, and it's something that you have to sort of embrace. And, whenever you hit the upper rep range and then you're up in the weight that you're doing, you're potentially lifting or moving a weight that you never have before. And it's your body, needs time to sort of feel what that's like, whether you're pressing it, pulling it, lifting it, whatever way you're doing it, it needs time to actually go, all right, okay, this is what this feels like. And you maybe pick it up the first time and it maybe is only 5 or 10 pounds heavier than what you did before. And we spoke about this a couple of times in deadlifts. Like, if you're at your max, like most you've ever lifted in a deadlift or an RDL, and you add 5 pounds to it, it's as if you've had 500 pounds, because it just becomes a completely immovable object. But then it's just taking your body, a while to get used to actually, right, this is what the new weight that is that we're going to move, and then we continue to progress from that. And I actually saw a tweet that Daniel did last night of, you know, his previous PR. He does that on a regular basis for high reps now, and that's just the way that it is. That's how you rinse and repeat it. And I actually find, it's not here in front of me, one of my old training diaries, probably from about 5 years ago, which was an interesting throwback. But it's good to have those and sort of, again, be able, another way to recognize how far you've come in certain things.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, so I was looking at my spreadsheet. So I have a spreadsheet that I track all my volume, you know, my reps, my ranges, and everything else. And you know, I looked at just this week. So this week, you know, when I started this program, it's week 14, and you know, I look at last week at the same time, and my rack pulls were, you know, I did 345, 375 as warm-ups, and then I did 425 for 7 reps, and then I did 425 for 4 reps, okay? This week, I did 425 for 10 reps and 445 for 5 reps. So, you know, like I exponentially increased, you know, my volume. Now, at the same time, you know, I talked about this in check-in, is that my back is extremely exhausted. It is tired. It's like, listen, dude, stop. Like, it's not hurt. It's just the muscles are like, seriously, I need some time to chill because you just did some crazy shit. You know, that's messing me up. And so I was doing legs. Well, it all actually started when I was at Orange Theory. I was running on the treadmill. I noticed my back was starting to get pretty tight. And then I went to the weight room and I was doing deadlifts, you know, with dumbbells. And I noticed it was super tight. And then I did legs later on in the day. And then I noticed, you know, I got through, I think, my 6th set of squats. So I do 2 warm-ups, 3 heavy, and then 2 extremely light ones, more in the 15 rep range. And I noticed that when I got to that last squat, I'm like, I'm done with my leg workout for today. Like, my back is just, there's nothing there. Like, my back has nothing left to give. And so today, you know, my full body workout, I gave my back a break. I did not do any back exercises today, just to give myself a little bit of a break. Now, I obviously probably incorporated some back, you know, with some of them, you know, because you're going to be using your back for anything that you do. But, you know, I didn't put a large strain or load on that in any way. So, you know, it's again, recognizing your body, recognizing your progression, and also understanding that, you know, as you start to increase, tracking this data is really important. You know, I when I went through the Nipper program, you know, my body started to break down. You know, I don't know if you remember that or not, but I mean, it was just like, you know, I was exhausted. My body was exhausted. My bones were exhausted. You know, like, there's no reason to do that. You know, like, I mean, unless, again, you're like 25 years old and you're recovering, you know, like crazy. You know, so for me, finding that balance between doing volume, higher rep ranges, and also still going heavy on the large compound movements has really been a really sweet spot for me. And again, I try to stay personally within the 6 to 8 rep range. It's not too heavy and it's not too light, right? And I'm still increasing the strength aspect of things. And I'm not going overboard with trying to do like a 1 rep max where I'm just exhausting everything, except if I'm trying to beat Ben on like a rack pull or something. But other than that, like, I literally, I can't. It's the 555 is an immovable object for me, at least right now. But,
I have a strong posterior chain, and you're not going to beat it.
I was like, you know, I went in there pretty damn cocky and confident that I was going to do that. And because like I was like 505 wasn't too bad. It was hard, but it wasn't too bad. And the difference, you know, with 50 pounds, it literally was 7,000 pounds difference. You know, like there was no moving that object at all. So
well, we'll see. Like, you know, it won't be long. We'll be doing it side by side, or we'll be doing it back to back. And I would say that there will be like, we will both be 10% stronger that day, because there will be that competitive nature of we're beside each other. So I think we'll hit some PRs that day for sure.
Yeah, you just gotta,
we'll be broken. We'll be broken.
I was about to say, you need to watch me, because I will literally sacrifice my body, including broken limbs and, you know, everything else to beat you. Because last time when I had my cousin come over, my cousin is he only lifts upper body, doesn't do any legs whatsoever. And so, like, I started off with legs day, of course, and I destroyed him on everything. You know, like everything. I was just like ripping through him. He's like, "You're an evil bastard. You know, I'm never gonna lift with you again." And then we did arms, and he was super strong on arms because all he does is lift arms. You know, he's been lifting for 15 years, so, you know, he's got these massive, you know, biceps. He's much stronger than me on the upper body side of the house. And he's like, oh, I'm just gonna load 300 on the bench. I'm like, oh yeah, that's good. That's good for me too. I'm like, that's not a good idea. This is a year ago. I'm like, but and I end up tearing my shoulder. So, so watch me when we do those. So because I'm gonna be very competitive.
But yeah, I think that the volume thing and the rep range thing, there's obviously a lot of difference going on with it. And the way that my training's set up at the minute is I obviously do my warm-up sets. The way I do them is I basically just work up to whatever my working set's going to be. I'll do 2 or 3 reps on the way up, whether it's dumbbells, whether it's weight on the bar, or whatever that needs to look like. Then I'll get to my working set. The rep range for me in my working set is 6 to 10. If I feel like I can do more than 10, then I'll push it, and then I'll know how to adjust what would be my back off set after that. So I'll do one working set of 6 to 10, and then I'll do my back off set, which will generally be, I guess 20% or thereabouts less weight, and then I'll try to aim for like 10 to 15. And that's just, I don't really go outside of that. That's pretty much with the way that my training's set up at the minute. It means that I can really push things in terms of, hitting all-time PRs from the working set perspective, and I am doing that at the minute. Like I'm lifting weights that I never have, I'm going to say with much more ease, I guess, than before. And then I'm able to do my back off set, which gives me the more volume and the higher rep range for muscle fatigue. And that's the way my training's set up at the minute. And I'm only doing 4 sessions a week. Push, pull, legs, arms. That's it.
It's awesome. And our arms day is awesome. That's my favorite day.
Yes.
Well,
of course,
push is first, then arms.
Yeah. It's actually funny because, there used to be this bit of controversy of like, oh, you can't just go in and do arms day, like whatever. But then, it was whenever Callum coached me and he was like, well, if arms is a weak body part, then why would you not specifically go in and do a day for it? Because the way that I always would have tied in arms would have been at the end of my lower body sessions, because I would have found that just personally that if I did it at the end of upper body, my shoulders were generally fatigued, so I couldn't get enough from it. But if you imagine you're doing it at the end of your session, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be pretty fatigued overall at the end of your session. So trying to do what then is your weaker muscle group doesn't really make any sense. So it having its own day, like since I started doing that with Helmy, I've seen massive increases in terms of what I've been able to do. Yeah. And I mean, as we know, Helmy's a big boy, and I'm going to say I'm not too far off some of the weights that he's doing. So, and obviously it works. And I guess that for me is, because this is a new stimulus for me, I'm quicker to catch up to where he is, if that makes sense. And then he's obviously grinding out for the reps. I'm not in any way as strong as he is, but I'm definitely, on that direction.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Well, hey, I think that's a wrap.
Yeah.
That was a good episode, man. I like it. It was good.
I mean, I still don't know what I'm going to title it, but...
Rep ranges, steps, oh my.
And catch up with Ben and Dave.
That's right. It's always a catch up, Ben and Dave. But no, hey, listen, I appreciate everybody listening today. Us go back and forth. Hopefully you enjoyed the podcast last week at least. We got a lot of great feedback with that. We're going to continue to bring in,
pineapple on pizza.
Pineapple and pizza, Italian special. But we're going to continue to bring folks in that that are inspirational, that have done crazy things, or have completely transformed their lives, in a positive way, to add different perspectives than just the two of us talking all the time. Get some experts in here. So really appreciate you listening, and as always, follow us on Twitter, We Hack Health, and then you have Hacking Your Health Discord, all over the place. But appreciate everybody tuning in, and share with your friends, family, and everything else.
Yeah, catch you next week.
See you next week.